What if I told you that the most terrifying thing in the universe isn't a black hole or a nuclear explosion, but a single silent minute? Imagine you are standing in a crowded subway station during rush hour. The air is thick with the smell of damp coats and burnt electrical dust. You hear the screech of the brakes and the aggressive thumb tapping of 1,000 people on glass screens. Then, in an instant, the sound dies. Not a fade out, but a violent surgical cut. The man next to you is mid-sneeze, his face contorted in a grotesque mask of tension, but he doesn't finish. He is a statue. A woman's coffee has spilled, but the brown liquid isn't hitting the floor. It's hanging in the air like a cluster of amber pearls. You are the only thing moving in a world made of stone, but that wasn't the worst part.
This isn't just a fantasy. It is a nightmare of physics. According to the journals of Albert Einstein, time is not a separate entity, but a fabric woven into the very soul of the universe. If you stop the clock, you aren't just pausing a movie, you are breaking the fundamental laws of cause and effect. Think about the air. We don't just breathe, we push. Our lungs rely on the constant, frantic vibration of nitrogen and oxygen molecules. If time freezes for 60 seconds, those molecules turn into a solid wall of invisible lead. You try to inhale, but your chest won't move. The air is locked in place, colder than a winter in Siberia, because heat is just the movement of atoms. You are standing in a vacuum of your own making. Then I saw it. The sun didn't look like a ball of fire anymore.
The light itself would change. Photons, the tiny particles of light that hit our retinas at 186,000 miles per second, would simply stop. If you moved your head even a fraction of an inch, you would be walking into old light, seeing images of the past like a ghost haunting the present. In his 1915 papers, Einstein suggested that gravity and time are linked. If time pauses, does gravity quit its job? Imagine a Boeing 747 over the Atlantic. It is a 400-ton beast held up by the sheer speed of air over its wings. When that speed hits zero, the physics of lift disappears. The plane is no longer a vehicle. It is a massive metallic weight waiting for the universe to remember how to fall. I wasn't prepared for what happened next. The psychological weight is heavier than the physical.
Historians have long documented the human obsession with the eternal now. St. Augustine wrote in his Confessions about the terrifying nature of the present moment, arguing that it barely exists because it's always turning into the past. But in this frozen minute, the present becomes a prison. Imagine the internal monologue of a surgeon mid-incision or a pilot mid-landing. They are trapped in a state of repressed panic, their brains unable to process a reality where the next doesn't exist. There is a deep, primal fear in seeing a bird frozen mid-flop, its feathers sharp as glass. It triggers something in our lizard brain, a realization that we are incredibly fragile. We rely on the flow of time to hide the fact that we are always 1 second away from total chaos. Then the silence grew even louder.
The real horror isn't the freeze, it's the restart. Kinetic energy doesn't just vanish. It waits. It is a debt that the universe always collects. Think about a car traveling at 60 miles per hour. When time stops, it has a massive amount of momentum stored in its frame. When the 60 seconds are up and the play button is hit, that energy doesn't ramp up slowly. It slams back into reality with the force of a sledgehammer. Every plane in the sky, every car on the highway, and every drop of blood in your veins would experience a cosmic whiplash. The woman's amber pearls of coffee would shatter against the tile. The man would finish his sneeze, but his body would be reeling from a minute of absolute stillness. I realized I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of the gap.
Psychologists who study time perception often talk about how our brains fill in the blanks during trauma. We have no biological hardware to understand a minute that didn't happen. When time resumes, the world would suffer a collective global seizure of the mind. People would look at their watches and see 60 seconds have vanished, yet their bodies would feel the phantom ache of the pause. We would spend the rest of history trying to explain the great gap. It wouldn't be a miracle. It would be a scar on the collective consciousness of the species. We think we want more time, but we only want the time we can understand. I looked at the man's frozen thumb again and realized he wasn't scrolling anymore. He was just waiting for the end of a world that had already stopped.